This is Title 18 Word Crimes. I'm Erik Arneson. On this special episode, and not special like ABC after school specials from the 70s and 80s, or that episode of Different Strokes with First Lady Nancy Reagan, we have two stories for you today. Both of the stories, Customer by S.W. Lauden and my own Election Day, can be found on the brand new, like it just became available today if you're listening to this podcast on the day it dropped, November 8th, 2016, brand new anthology, Waiting to be Forgotten, Stories of Crime and Heartbreak Inspired by the Replacements. Published by Gutter Books and edited by Jay Stringer, Waiting to be Forgotten features stories by Franz Nicolay, Christy Belcamino, Johnny Shaw, Alex Segura, and many more. This is Customer by S.W. Lauden from the anthology Waiting to be Forgotten.
35 years is a long time to wait for somebody. I was barely 19 and in love with the girl at the liquor store. She was 21, with hard blue eyes like two frozen ponds, a neutral icy armor with wonders just beneath. Her honey blonde hair swooped down across her forehead to hide a small scar. I noticed it once when she wasn't looking, and it became my little secret about her. A tiny imperfection to remind me she was human. My bass player said she used to strip at the local topless bar. It was just a verbal punch in the arm from a jealous brother, but it only made me want her more. The liquor store was up on the avenue, not far from where the hookers walked the cold night streets. I'd pass those girls in the aisles sometimes, their painted doll faces poking up through fake fur collars. They'd come inside to shoplift junk food and try to stay warm. My lorry just restocked the shelves and never said a word. I went there every night after practice to buy more cigarettes and whatever else a fistful of change would get me. Then, when the place emptied out, I'd go to the counter and try to make small talk. "You guys got any Wonder Bread?" I was shy and mumbling, always daring myself to make eye contact. "Water beds?" "No, I was asking about, Don't cry, Romeo. I'm just teasing you." She'd tuck her hair behind one ear and giggle, waiting for me to pay. No matter how hard I tried, I was just a customer. Until the night the place got robbed. Jesus Christ, I can still see all that fucking blood when I close my eyes, even after all these years. My whole band lived in a run-down dump near the interstate. The rent was cheap and we could rehearse in the basement. Most afternoons we'd crank the stereo and smoke cigarettes out on the front porch. The whir of passing semis collided with the rush of the nearby river to create a soothing white noise like radio static. That's where we were when I saw Lori walking by on the way to work. She wore tight-fitting jeans with a sweater pulled down over one shoulder. Her eyes were on the sidewalk as she snapped gum and avoided the cracks. I was still screwing up the courage to say something when my drunk-ass drummer called her name. She stopped in her tracks and looked our way. I kicked at the wooden slats with my sneakers and brushed the hair into my eyes. There were so many thoughts swirling around in my head. I wanted to sing all the songs I'd written for her, profess my love at the top of my lungs. But that would require a few more beers. "Yeah, hey, how's it going?" "Do I know you?" The band cracked up as I melted into my chair. "It's me, Harold, from the liquor store?" "Oh, right. You're the waterbed guy." I had a nickname. She remembered me. "Do you maybe want to hang out after work tonight?" She brought her hand up to shade her eyes, as if inspecting the merchandise. It felt like somebody was holding my head under water while I waited for her to answer. "Sure. Come get me a little after 10. We rushed through our set during practice that night. My hands went through the motions on the guitar, but I wasn't there. The only things that kept me tethered to the moment were the knots in my stomach. My ears were still ringing when I stepped into the liquor store a few minutes early for our date. She was behind the counter helping some old man fill out a money order. We made eye contact and she bit her lower lip. I was frozen in place until I remembered the Pac-Man machine near the back wall. I would rather have been playing pinball, but I took what I could get. The theme music ended and I gobbled up dots, the way hippies ate acid at Grateful Dead shows back then. The game ended quickly, so I reached into my pocket for another quarter. It tumbled to the floor and I squatted to grope for it, looking up into the mounted security mirror overhead. The old man was gone, but two younger guys charged in. They both had feathered hair and wispy stoner mustaches, just like every other burnout. It was hard to tell if they were 20 or 40. I thought they were there for a last-minute beer run or maybe some rolling papers, until I spotted the guns. Lori brought her trembling hands up and I dove to the floor. My entire body tensed as I crawled down an aisle lined with dusty groceries. "Give me the money, bitch!" She whimpered when the register drawer sprang open. I could hear the plastic bag shaking in her hands as she filled it with cash. "Where's the rest of it?" "It's all there, I swear." "Hold on. Aren't you that quiet chick that used to dance at the titty bar?" Her silence was answer enough. "This must be my lucky night. Take her in the back while I lock up." I pushed myself up and peeked over the top shelf. The guy behind the counter made her use a box cutter to slice the phone line. Tears were streaming down her cheeks and snot was bubbling from her nose as he dragged her into the storeroom at gunpoint. She looked so goddamn defenseless that my blood started boiling. The other guy flipped the open sign and killed the neon beer lights one by one. Satisfied that the store looked closed for the night, he went into the back to join the party. I exhaled slowly, weighing my options. I could either sneak out and call the cops, praying they got there in time, or do something about it myself. My hand was already on the front door when she started screeching. The adrenaline chewed up my fear as I ducked behind the counter. I put 4 plastic bags inside of each other, careful not to crinkle them too loudly. Back at the grocery aisle, I filled the bags with soup cans and tied the top tight. A thin film of sweat started forming under my flannel shirt as I listened. Both men were talking and laughing, popping beers inside the storeroom. I went back around the counter and hid on the far side. If they came out together, I was dead, but I knew it was a suicide mission either way. I reached over and slapped a carton of cigarettes to the ground. Everything went still before the storeroom door swung open. One of the gunmen stood with his back to me. I could read the tour dates on his Bad Company t-shirt as he growled at his partner. "Will you stop worrying? This place is locked up tight. Go check anyway. I don't want anything ruining our private show." I caught a glimpse of Lori before the door slammed shut. She'd been stripped naked and those motherfuckers were making her dance. Black mascara streaked from her pleading eyes as she shimmied and shook. I waited, twisting the bags around my wrist until my hand began to tingle. The gunman thundered through the store, in too much of a hurry to be careful. It only took a few moments before he made his way to the front window. He was scanning the empty parking lot with paranoid eyes when my bag full of cans crashed into his skull. A light halo of blood filled the air as he spat out a groan. His yellow teeth were gnashing under curled lips when he spun to attack. The weight of my crude weapon was unwieldy, but I managed a second swing. I heard a loud snap as it connected with his jaw. His chin whipped the rest of his body into a stumbling spiral that sent the gun skidding away. Our eyes met again when his head hit the floor. I brought the bag up and over in a perfect Pete Townsend windmill. The blood was thick and dark this time, like dirty motor oil. His legs buckled and twitched before he finally went still. The gun felt heavy in my hand as I headed for the storeroom. Lori was swaying in a silent trance when I kicked the door open. The second gunman was standing up and trying to wriggle out of his pants with a gun in one hand. I leveled mine first, screaming a line memorized from watching too many TV cop shows. "Drop it!" His body tensed as she fell to her knees on the tile floor. I could barely hear him talking over the sound of her sobs. "Jesus, are you her boyfriend or something?" Lori answered for me in a raspy purr. "Shut the fuck up." "Can I at least put my pants back on?" "Not yet." I watched her naked body unfold from the ground like a milky wisp of smoke. She pushed the matted hair from her face and slowly bent to pick up his gun, taunting us both with her ass. "Sit down." He lowered himself into a chair, tracing the length of her body with a leer. "Harold." Her voice was thick with venom, but it was the first time she'd ever said my name. "Tie him up. There's some twine over there that we used to bundle cardboard." I brought his hands down and wrapped them tight behind the chair. He didn't budge when I did the same to his feet. She pushed me aside with her hip when I'd finished. His eyes were fixed on the 2 perfect tits only inches from his face. "Like what you see?" "You always were my favorite dancer." I backed away and brought my own gun up, unsure of what else to do. "He's not going anywhere, Lori. Let me run to the payphone and call the cops." "Shut up, Harold." The second time she said my name wasn't nearly as sweet. I've been dealing with assholes like him my whole life. It's like the summer of love never ended for them. Like they can just take whatever they want. I offered to pay you plenty of times. I am not for sale." She walked over to a wooden desk and slid the drawer open. The gun was still sitting there when she came back with something small in her hand. His tone filled with dread when he caught sight of it too. Take it easy, baby. This is all just a big mistake." He was panicking now, struggling to break free. "Please, just let your boyfriend be a hero." She leaned in, their faces so close together their lips almost touched. I lunged, more out of jealousy than courage, right when she gouged his throat with a box cutter. It was a stingy slit at first, but soon the tiny drops of blood began to poke through at the corners. She stood up to move away, never taking her eyes off of the satisfying shock in his. The gash that spread across his neck slowly became a shapeless, sputtering wound. I focused on the curves of her blood-splattered body as she edged backwards towards me. My fingertips were just brushing the soft skin on her back when the door flew open. The other gunman was standing there, his face a bludgeoned wreck. I was so sickened by the damage I'd done that I didn't notice he had another gun. There was a loud pop, and she collapsed to the floor. I turned without thinking and squeezed my trigger. His body jerked back when I fired again. I didn't stop shooting until he disappeared from view. I dropped to my knees and took Lori into my arms. Her breathing was shallow, but she managed to whisper through a painful smile. "He said you were my boyfriend." Her head was in my lap when the police found us. They pried her from my grip and led me out into the numb night. A crowd was gathering behind the yellow police tape near the sidewalk. My bandmates looked on in horror as 2 officers lowered me into the back of a squad car. We drove along the river to the police station. I watched the barges slipping by in the darkness, their lights reflecting off the black water as they sliced their way out of town. At the station, I was escorted into a small cinder-block room and left alone. It smelled like cigarettes and desperation from the long line of losers who had been there before me. I spit at my reflection in the 2-way mirror, disgusted by the failed hero staring back. It seemed like an eternity before the officers returned. They said they were there to take my statement. One of them set a bulky tape recorder down on the carved-up wooden table in front of me. He pushed the red record button and folded his arms. "Ready whenever you are." "Okay, just give me a second." That night has been stuck on repeat ever since I got in my car this morning. It was a short drive east from downtown and out to the state line. I found the motel in no time and chose a parking spot around back. My seat is so far reclined that I'm almost lying down, but I still have a good view of the staircase. Now I just have to be patient. It could be worse. The coffee from my thermos is hot and the college radio station is playing some great music. That last song was by a local band we used to open for way back when. Those guys went on to sign a major label record deal and tour the world. My band never got back together after that night at the liquor store. I just couldn't find the point in doing it anymore, no matter how hard I tried. Besides, I had better things to do with my spare time. We all eventually moved out of that old house and went our separate ways. The drummer's a high school history teacher now. We used to run into each other sometimes when our kids played Little League, but that was more than a decade ago. I have no idea what happened to those other guys. It took a few years of living with my parents to get back on my feet. I met my wife when she came into the club where I was bartending a few years later. She had long black hair and soft brown eyes that hid nothing. We got married a year later and bought a little bar of our own. There were ups and downs along the way, but we managed to raise 2 pretty great kids. They're both off at college now, and we're at home getting to know each other again. My wife still hasn't asked me about that night at the liquor store. I don't know what I'd say if she did, even though I think about it all the time. The guy who was tied to the chair bled to death before the cops got there. 2 of my bullets caught his partner in the left shoulder, just barely missing his heart. Not bad for my first time firing a gun, but not good enough. The doctors dug the slugs out of him in the operating room right next to where Lori died. He was as good as new by the time they got around to trying him for the murder. I was scheduled to take the stand on the day he cut a deal with the prosecutor. They gave him a reduced sentence in exchange for testifying against an accomplice in another case. Yesterday was his last day in prison, and now he's staying at this motel. My loaded gun is on the seat right next to me. I've been to the shooting range every week since the last time we met. It shouldn't be long now before he comes outside to have a cigarette. And when he does, I'm going to finish what I started all those years ago. I doubt my family will ever forgive me, but I hope they come to understand. Somebody has to make him pay the price. For the girl at the liquor store.
That was Customer by S.W. Lauden, read by S.W. Lauden, from the anthology Waiting to be Forgotten. S.W. Lauden is the author of the novels Grizzly Season and Bad Citizen Corporation, both of which feature former LA police officer Greg Salem. You can find him online at badcitizencorporation.com. Up next is my contribution to Waiting to be Forgotten. This is Election Day. November 7th, 1989. Susan Preston studied her reflection in the dressing room mirror as she applied makeup and pondered her choice of careers. The average lifespan of a female news reporter in the United States was, well, limited would be a gentle way of putting it. You could count on one hand the number of women, the superstars, and only the superstars, still on the air at national networks and big market local stations past age 50. Preston had just crossed into her 40s and was stuck at KDUL-TV Action News 5, Duluth. She hoped her daughter, a high school freshman, had the good sense to pursue some other occupation. Preston missed the warm sun and the peaceful ocean waves of San Diego. She hated the miserable, bone-chilling cold that was starting to mark the days in Duluth. But she had few options after those motherfuckers at KSDE. No, she needed to stay centered, focused. She repeated the teachings of her yoga in San Diego. Anger takes us to a dark place. Seek the light. Truth be told, she had been lucky to find a job after San Diego. Be grateful for opportunities and challenges alike. Embrace them all, for they are gifts to be cherished. Duluth wasn't horrible, really. The people were nice enough. Her daughter seemed to be enjoying her new school. The cost of living was low. Rise above the obstacles life sends your way, and you will have a clear view of life's goodness. Preston finished her makeup, took one last look at her reflection, and sighed. What you give to the world will give back to you. Today, the Tuesday following the first Monday of November, her first assignment was to cover the mayoral election. The classic man-on-the-street approach, her least favorite style of reporting. Who the fuck cared about the mayor of fucking Duluth anyway? Fucking freezing hellhole. Preston closed her eyes. Seek the light. A sharp knock jolted her out of her bout of self-pity. What? Her response was sharper than the knock. Harry Evans, her cameraman/producer, opened the door and stuck his head inside. Bigger than an NFL linebacker, which Preston knew firsthand thanks to her brief tenure as a sports reporter in Seattle and her even briefer tenure with that team's superstar outside linebacker. Harry was pleasant enough, but also not to be screwed around with. We need to get on the road. He didn't wait for her answer. Preston knew he was already walking to the news van where he would be waiting for her. Seriously, the mayor of fucking Duluth? Good morning. Susan Preston, KDUL. Can I ask who you voted for in today's election? Preston had been told Minnesotans were polite and welcoming, but she had to ask a dozen people before someone did more than scoff. And that guy, with a bad comb-over and missing some key teeth, said, I voted for you, hot stuff. Can I be your intern? Fuck this, Harry, she said to the cameraman. Is there anything worse than Election Day? Yeah, Harry said, removing the camera from his shoulder and holding it by the handle. Wait till they send you out to cover the snowplows in January. Terrific. Hey, over there. Harry lifted the camera back into place as Preston followed his gaze. What? Not what. Who? Deadeye Davy Carlson, former mayor. He'll talk to you. Do they call him Deadeye because he has a lazy eye? Preston asked. Because my nephew has a lazy eye. I don't like people making fun of that. Shut up and get the interview, Harry said. He's called Deadeye because he killed 3 guys one night, back when he was a cop. Oh. Get the interview. Oh yeah. Preston called out to the former mayor, who was across the street. "Mayor Carlson." "Deadeye," Harry said. "Call him Deadeye." "Mayor Deadeye." Harry shook his head, but Carlson crossed the street toward her. He was small, maybe 5'6", in the heeled cowboy boots he was wearing. His head seemed to be too big for his body, not unlike a bobblehead. But his hair was impeccably trimmed, and there was something ruggedly handsome about his weathered face. When he smiled, Preston felt she had known him for months or years, but of course they had never met. He walked right up to her, positioning himself perfectly for the camera shot. "How can I help you, darlin'?" Was that a southern accent? The way he said darlin' stirred memories of her hometown, San Antonio. Probably a trick of the mind. She looked at Harry, who nodded once in response, a sign that he was recording, and she could begin the interview. "Did you vote today, Mayor?" "Call me Deadeye, darlin'." Preston shrugged. "Did you vote today, Deadeye?" "Sure I did." "And who did you vote for?" "If I had told you that, I'd be violating the sanctity of the secret ballot, wouldn't I?" Preston smiled, her turn to turn on the charm. "How about this? What issues did you consider most important in this election?" "Fair enough. For me, the most important issue in this election is that Mayor Charles Erdahl is a thief, a bribe taker, and, this here's the biggest point, a complete asshole." Preston suppressed a laugh. "Hard to imagine you voting for a man like that." Carlson's smile went crooked. "Darlin', I've done lots of things you'd probably find hard to imagine." Preston liked this guy, and Carlson gave her some great quotes, including a few conveniently devoid of curse words. He also suggested some other people she could talk to. It involved far more time outside in the cold. Correction, the fucking cold, than she wanted, but over the course of the next few hours, Preston and Evans assembled a damn good report. They interviewed Carlson's contacts, found a few people willing to talk about why they supported the incumbent, and edited together a tight video package. Then she did a flawless live shot standing in front of historic City Hall, a backdrop guaranteed to make her look great on screen. Next on the agenda, covering Mayor Erdahl's election night party. Preston walked into the 5th floor ballroom at the Grand Hotel and, much to her surprise, was impressed. Most election night parties had a distinctly third-class feel. Lukewarm hors d'oeuvres, cheesy DJs, and, the worst sin of all, cash bars. Mayor Charles Erdahl had spared no expense. The life-size ice sculpture of him was the most visible spectacle, but the open bar was a close second. Preston helped herself to a bacon-wrapped barbecue shrimp from the tray of a passing waiter and nodded toward the bar. "I'll be over there," she said to Harry Evans. Evans raised his eyebrows. "Doing what?" "Talking to people," she said. "Learning things. Stuff reporters do." "Just remember your live shot at 10. "I'll be ready." "Less than 20 minutes. "You're that new news lady, aren't you?" the bartender asked as he prepared her whiskey sour. "That's me," Preston said. He was adorable, she thought, and caught herself wondering if he was old enough. "It sure is nice to meet you. My name's Joe Ames. I'm studying journalism at the University of Minnesota." Still in college. Not old enough. He strained her drink into a lowball glass. "Susan Preston," she said, extending her hand. The kid mistook her gesture for a handshake. "Cute." She shook his hand, then pointed to the whiskey sour. "Oh, of course," Ames said. "Here you go, Miss Preston." She took her first sip and was savoring the silky texture as the whiskey slid down her throat when she sensed, no, smelled, courtesy of his cheap cologne, a man standing next to her. "Drinking on the job?" the new arrival asked. Preston turned to face him. "And what's it?" "Ah, Mr. Moody. It's a pleasure to see you again." Preston's distaste for Mitch Moody, Mayor Erdahl's campaign manager, had been intense the moment she'd met him 2 weeks earlier at Campbell Elementary School. In San Diego, and before that in Tulsa, Preston had run across some real jackasses in the political realm. But Moody, he was something special. "Nice report on the election today," Moody said. Preston responded cautiously. Thank you." "Deadeye's always good for a libelous comment or two." "Slanderous." "What?" Moody asked. "It's slander when you're speaking." "Either way," Moody said, "we'll see you in court." Preston took another swig of her whiskey sour. "If I had a nickel for every time someone threatened to sue me, I wouldn't be reporting the news in this frozen paradise." Moody smirked. You certainly are familiar with court appearances, aren't you? A knot formed in Preston's stomach. She tried not to let it show, lifting the drink to her lips once again. Anyone in the public eye gets hauled into court every now and then, she said. Hazard of the job. Well, yes and no. Moody's smug expression made Preston want to punch his perfectly shaped nose. Be grateful for challenges. Rise above the obstacles. Susan, so good to see you here, said a female voice behind Preston. Preston looked over her shoulder and put on a smile for Congresswoman Ethel Stroman. My pleasure, Congresswoman. You're here to support Mayor Erdahl? For my money, he's the best mayor the city's ever had, Stroman said. She asked the bartender for a glass of Chardonnay. Charlie's done a lot of good for Duluth, even if his taste in staff is somewhat questionable. Moody chuckled. The Congresswoman's upset because the mayor convinced me to leave her staff for his, he said. Stroman took her drink from the bartender and lifted it slightly toward Preston and Moody. Enjoy the night, Susan, she said before disappearing into the crowd. I don't think she likes you, Preston said. No one likes me, Moody said. Same as you, but they respect our power, don't they? Or at least fear it. I'm a reporter. Preston sipped her whiskey sour, noticing that it was already dangerously close to empty. I don't have any power beyond exposing the truth. Moody lowered his voice. The truth as you see it. That's why you're no longer with KSDE, isn't it? Preston relaxed a little. That's all this was about? I have friends in San Diego, Moody continued. One of the many reasons I'm great at my job is that I do thorough research on anyone who might cause headaches for my boss. And listen, I'm on your side. I can't understand why the president of City Council was so bent out of shape when you accused him of rigging contracts. What do you want? Preston asked, her confidence restored. She swallowed the last drops of her drink. I want you to know that I can break you, Moody said, displaying his perfect teeth in a vicious grin. I want you to know that your new bosses here have no idea about what you did in San Diego. Maybe they know about the city council thing, but they sure as hell don't know about the drugs or the college quarterback. Preston's back stiffened. Moody leaned in close so she could feel his breath on her ear. Or the photos. Preston pulled back. Can we talk somewhere else? She asked. Moody motioned toward the lobby, and she followed. Though not as crowded as the ballroom, dozens of people were mingling. More private, Preston said. Moody shrugged and pointed. Over there. He led the way and held the door to the stairwell open for Preston. Inside, the two stood in silence. The thwunk of the heavy door slamming shut behind them echoed in the silence of the empty concrete chamber. This private enough? Moody asked. Preston nodded. What's this about? I told you. I want you to know. No, Preston interrupted. Bullshit on that. In practical terms, what's this about? In practical terms, I want you to have a very open ear to any stories I suggest. I don't want you talking to fucking Deadeye Carlson about anything. And I expect you to give me a heads up when any of your colleagues is working on a story that involves my boss. Preston locked eyes with him and tried to slow her heartbeat. She had to consciously stop herself from fidgeting. If I say yes, people will figure it out, she said. It won't work. It can't. Don't worry, he said. You're smart enough to make it work. Preston stared at him, saying nothing for as long as she could. But she knew that what sank her in San Diego would sink her deeper in Duluth. Her daughter was actually making friends in high school. She couldn't uproot her again. Embrace the challenges. I understand, she said finally, then walked to the stairwell exit. Oh, one more thing, Moody said. Preston stopped, her hand resting on the door handle. What? She asked, without facing him. I want some of what that quarterback got. It was, in real time, a fraction of a second. No thinking was involved. But for Preston, the processing of the insult and her reaction to it seemed to take minutes. Her head turned first, and she saw the glee in Moody's eyes. She watched as the glee transformed to puzzlement, then to an odd mix of amusement and fear as her right hand released the door handle and started on a trajectory toward his face. Moody lifted his left arm to block her blow, but couldn't complete the motion in time. Preston's open hand hit his cheek and jaw with more force than she had ever hit anything before, including that asshole at KSDE who had fired her. Moody's eyes widened cartoonishly and some blood flew out of his mouth. His head spun wildly and his body followed. He teetered at the top of the stairs, his arms flailing. When he finally toppled, everything sped up. Moody extended a hand to Preston. She reached out to grab him. Their fingers touched for the briefest of moments. His scream was cut off when his head landed on the fourth concrete stair from the top. It bounced on at least 3 more stairs on the way down before he came to a stop, his head on the landing and his body splayed out up the stairs. "Mitch?" Preston asked. A pool of blood spread out around his head. "Mitch?" No answer. Fuck me, fuck this, fuck me. Preston stared at Moody and continued to curse. The chill night seemed to sweep into the stairwell, and she shivered in the bitter cold. Anger takes us to a dark place. No shit, she said to herself, her voice barely a whisper. This is a pretty fucking dark place. Be grateful for opportunities and challenges alike. Embrace them all, for they are gifts to be cherished. Preston pulled a tissue from her pocket, wiped off the handle, and cracked the door open. The last of the minglers was walking into the ballroom. It must be time for Mayor Erdahl to give his victory speech. Time for her live shot. Rise above the obstacles life sends your way, and you will have a clear view of life's goodness. Holy shit, Preston whispered. Perfect. She strode across the lobby and through the large doors leading to the ballroom. Her arm was grabbed the instant she walked inside. Where the fuck have you been? Harry Evans asked. It's 1 minute to go time. Calm down, Preston said. 1 minute, plenty of time. She straightened her hair, inserted her earpiece, and took the microphone from Evans. He also handed her a piece of paper and ushered her to a spot in front of his camera, next to the cameras for the other local news stations. Preston scanned the paper. You're live, Evans said. In 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Tom, Preston said to the news anchor back in the studio. As you said, I'm here at the victory party for Mayor Charles Erdahl. The returns are in, and the voters of Duluth have decided by a 2-to-1 margin that the mayor deserves another term. I'll give you this, Evans said as he wrapped the microphone cord around his arm. That was pretty impressive with no prep time and, I assume, more than one drink. Preston raised her eyebrows. Thanks. One problem, Evans said. Oh? Preston's heart jumped. Lipstick on your collar. I shouldn't ask how that got there, should I? Preston glanced down and saw a red smudge. Ah, she said, trying to control the panic that suddenly threatened to consume her. No, probably not. She pulled a tissue from her pocket and wiped the smudge, making it worse. She chuckled nervously. I'll get that later, I guess, she said. Evans squinted and looked closely at her collar. Wait, is that lipstick? What you give to the world will give back to you. That was Election Day by me, Erik Arneson, from the anthology Waiting to be Forgotten, Stories of Crime and Heartbreak inspired by The Replacements. That anthology is now available. It's published by Gutter Books, edited by Jay Stringer. And in addition to the 2 stories featured on this podcast, it features stories by Franz Nicolay, Christy Belcamino, Johnny Shaw, Alex Segura, and many more. Be sure to check it out. Thanks for listening to Word Crimes. You can listen to or download the entire Word Crimes catalog on iTunes or Stitcher, or at our website, wordcrimespodcast.com. If you enjoy Word Crimes, please take a minute to rate the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. It's a great way to help other people learn about word crimes. You can find me at erikarneson.com. That's ErikArneson.com. You can find information about my first book there. It's a short story collection called The Throes of Crime. It features 26 short stories and 6 true crime essays. All proceeds from The Throes of Crime go to the James and Jeannie Arneson Memorial Scholarship Fund, and that benefits graduates of Wilmot High School in Wilmot, South Dakota. At my website, you can also find a free comic book, stories in Spanish, you can sign up for my email newsletter, and much more. I'm also at Erik Arneson on Twitter and easy to find on Facebook. The music on this episode is by The Throws. You can find them at The Throws, THROES, thethrows.com. Thanks again for listening to Title 18 Word Crimes. We'll be back soon with more great crime fiction.